podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking about day one of the fifth Ashes Test at Hobart between England and Australia. It started so well for England as they had Australia 12-4-3 before the same old story, got put into the cassette player and we were gently lulled back to sleep. Well, not really lulled back to sleep, battered back to sleep by Travis Head, who scored a magnificent century. My name is Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg, who's in his work shirt. How are you doing, Ross Legg?
Well, it's a professional job that I do, and it was a professional job by England's bowlers early on. So yeah, I'm feeling good, mate. I'm feeling confident that we're going to roll India out for less than about 500. I'm confident that.
Yeah, we were in a shirt to commemorate the one good spell of bowling that England have produced. One professional period of cricket England have come up with this series. And we're joined by Max Roy Brown, who's in a lovely stripy shirt. We had complaints this week, Max, about the state of your house. How would you like to come back against?
Yeah, well, I'd say that the complaints, they should remember the room I was podcasting out of during the summer. So let's take it one step at a time. This is a step up from the crack den, and there's at least something on the walls.
Perhaps
I'm representing also England's second session.
Yeah, we were, or maybe, joined by Nick Compton. We're not absolutely sure. I think there's some technical difficulties going on at his end. We're all doing this on our lunch break, so we made the decision at 12:15 to just get on with it instead of waiting around. I mean, it'd be nice if he turns up. We've got an overlay ready for him if you're watching on YouTube, but we don't know. If not, we hope to have him on at a later date. But moving on from that minor glitch, Ross, what are the messages for our listeners?
Well, there's loads of people watching right now, so you should like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and if you're a big fan of the shirt, you should get yourself one. In fact, I'm going to do the top button up if I can, and it'll be very, very professional. And you should also go over to Patreon. So Patreon is all about supporting the show, and there we go.
You just look like a dweeb now.
Yeah. Patreon.com.
It makes me look just ahead.
Let's concentrate on getting the messages out there. We got to the Patreon bit. Carry on, Ross.
You should support the show. We're revamping our offering on there for exclusive shows, as well as kind of, well, I would say rewards, but gifts and all this kind of stuff. So if you want to do that and support the show this year, go on to Patreon.
Yeah, basically, our idea is, and I think we've agreed on this, but we haven't updated the site yet, is that we'll be doing a once a month Patreon special where it will be like a non-topical show. I don't know, like our top 10 batters in the world. One of those like pointless bits that we used to do but don't really have enough time to fit into these daily shows we're currently making. And once a quarter, I think we said, Q&A exclusive for Patreons where you can jump on a Zoom with us and chat cricket, which I think is $5 a month, £4, 7 Aussie dollars, 409 rupees. Depending on which of our major markets you are in.
What about yuan?
Let's get on with the cricket.
No, hold on. We do need to go through more currencies. I like where Max is going with this. Max, can you do the patreon.com/the cricket pod match summary?
That's our current sponsorship, yeah. As the other two have rightly pointed out, England started with an almost very English start to a game. They bowled first and very quickly had Australia 12-3, including the wickets of Steve Smith, who fell for a two-ball duck, and that left England with the rare thing for this series of Test cricket, with a bit of hope. And obviously, we know what follows hope in this series. And very quickly, Marnus Labuschagne, followed by Travis Head and Cameron Green, shut the door on said hope. Not, of course, before Marnus Labuschagne produced one of the great meme-worthy dismissals, of himself, that I can remember in recent times. But after that swashbuckling start, the swashbuckling was all done by Travis Head, who put England's bowlers the sword, wearisome England bowlers down a man after Ollie Robinson was feeling a sore back. Mark Wood bowling scattergun all over the place, and the ball ceasing to move laterally off the seam, and the counter-attack came at a perfect time, was perfectly executed, and propelled Australia to end the day, as it was shortened by rain, for 241-6. Which, to be honest, if you'd asked an England fan before the day, would you take 241 for 6? They'd have probably said yes. But the way things went probably leaves a slightly sour taste in the mouth, as it turned out in the end.
Max, there were loads of people, on Twitter, which is the centre of the intellectual universe, as we know.
Of course.
Who were really, really losing their shit that England had managed to go from having Australia 12 for 3 to 250 for 6 at the end of the day. Now, I like to think I know a little bit about cricket. Do a cricket podcast.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I do a cricket podcast 5 times a week. Watch a lot of it. I had 2 games on for a lot of the mornings, a lot of this morning. We might talk a bit about India v South Africa later in the show as well. I thought that the aberration here was the 12 for 3, not the 240 runs that followed the 12 for 3. The 240 runs for 3 for the rest of the day, that was normal. The 12 for 3, that was the weird bit that probably shouldn't have happened. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking
that was the reversion to the mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is not a surprise. I mean, it's you wouldn't expect it to happen. You would expect the team that had the opposition 12 for 3 to maybe capitalise on that a little bit. This was a very or still quite a likely outcome.
Well, it's a very different situation. The thing is, as an England fan, when you watch England get a team to 12 for 3, it's usually at Headingley or something like that, and it's usually capitalised on by bowling a team out for 80 because the ball's doing all sorts. But obviously, we're not used to having Australia 12 for 3 in Australia. That was the situation, but as it happened, we know what happens with a pink ball after 10, 15, 20 overs. It very quickly goes soft and stops doing things. Pitch is green, but not actually, that crazy. It's a perfectly good pitch, and like you say, it's sort of a totally understandable and somewhat expected outcome. That the ball went soft. England's bowlers don't have the skill set or the natural ability to extract something out of the soft ball in Australia like the Australians do. I think you've got Ollie Robinson, who's tall and can get something out of it, and he was injured. And Mark Wood was the other man because we make him throw the ball at the batsman very fast, and he was bowling all over the place and getting spanked. So we lost our weapons that we actually had for that period of the game, and that meant it was pretty simple for Australia to come back into it. But that's not to take nothing away from the way Travis Head batted, because that was a splendid century.
Ross, let's dwell on the 12 for 3 for a minute. The joy, suck the joy out of the cricket lemon. Were you excited? Were you up? I wasn't up.
I wasn't up. Well,
it was 4 a.m.
Yeah. But what is interesting, right, is that this stuff can happen. As Max said, like, you have to put it down to the conditions. I thought it was a decent shout to bowl first, actually, by Joe Root. I think if we would have put our batsmen in under that pressure, we probably would have wilted.
Yeah.
And there's that bit of we've given ourselves a chance here. Australia are kind of in the driving seat. I think the pitch will probably flatten out. Probably the best day to bat will probably be on day 2. So actually, if we can get some early wickets and kind of bat all day, we should be able to at least try to get to somewhere near parity, actually.
Got to get them out first.
Yeah, we do have to get them out first. Stark has got a better batting average than pretty much all of the England team over the last couple of years, and he's at the crease. Alex Carey's got a point to prove because everyone thinks that Tim Paine's better than him again, which is hilarious. So, yeah, I think we've got a task on our hands.
Yep. Max, would you like to talk about Marnus Labuschagne falling over or Travis Head first?
Should we go for Marnus? Let's get all the fun stuff up front.
Why did he decide to do a Rory Burns impression?
I literally cannot quite comprehend what he was doing. It was like the moment I saw that, I was like, it reminded me of a number 9 in the last over of a T20, like trying to second guess the sort of Yorker outside off stump and get something on it. And it was just the most It was clearly premeditated because he moved so far before the ball had been delivered, and basically, even if he hadn't fallen over, I think the stumps were going. But obviously, the slip made it just that bit sweeter to watch. It was quite something. But I mean, in fairness, he was able to go and sit in the change room and have a laugh about it afterwards when they put it up on the screen, and he was sat there chuckling. So
there's a great
fair play.
There's a great photo of three people all in the shot. Marnus Labuschagne distraught on the floor, Broad celebrating, and then in the background Ben Stokes just laughing his arse off what he's just seen. It was so weird. A player
Maybe we should get
good.
Jack Russell to paint that.
It's not the first time I've seen it though this year. So we play eight-a-side cricket, don't we, in midweek in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one where
on the slippery Astros.
Yeah, there was a guy who slipped, literally doing exactly that bit. Max literally slipped over. There's a picture when he's half like this, and it was to see a professional cricketer do that on one of the biggest stages was absolutely hilarious. But
that was the second good falling incident of the day, wasn't it? After the first delivery, did you see that? Stuart Broad's belly flop.
Yeah. Well, as established, Ross and I were in bed, so I did.
Yeah, so was I, but they did show a replay of it.
It was important though. Labuschagne's innings though was good, right? It's what they needed. He kind of gave them a bit of a platform. He played some absolutely cracking shots. We dropped him again, so Marnus's luck kind of continued on that ring. So it was going straight into Joe Root's hands, and Crawley, who has got a safe pair of hands typically.
Crawley's a good slipper, yeah. Took a
he
really
dived
sharp
across. One. He dived across and cost England 44 runs there. But yeah, let's move on to Travis Head.
Possibly more. To be honest.
Yeah.
Travis Head. Hold on. I just want to say so I woke up just when Labuschagne was out, basically, or sometime around then. And at that point, Jonathan Agnew, the Agstradamus, was like, I think England will get him out for about 140 here. It's just like, what? What are you talking about? They've still got Cameron Green, Carey, Stark, Cummins, and Travis Head was going like the clappers at the other end. It was just head in hand stuff. Yeah, Travis Head, Ross, Rishabh Pant. We were talking about his century yesterday. In the same vein, wasn't it? Maybe slightly more controlled, a little bit more conventional, but pretty spicy conditions. A bowling attack that at least to begin with was up for it and firing under a lot of pressure. And he scored it so quickly, transforms the game in under a session or a session and a half.
Yeah, it does, and it was it kind of reminiscent of kind of David Warner in his pomp. Like some of the shots that he was playing, he dominated at the crease. Like he was going a strike rate of 100 for most of his innings. I think he's down at 85 or so from the rest, and like he played fantastically well. And yeah, it was a complete momentum changer. Talk about proper counter-attacking stuff. That is exactly what they wanted. And sometimes on a pitch where you think things might have your name on it, or a ball that is kind of against you, but actually, I think he just played really well. England tired very quickly. We looked beleaguered after almost like the hype of getting those wickets, and it was like it was almost the energy you used to get when you had those blue Skittles. Like you'd have blue Skittles as a kid, run around for 10 minutes and then absolutely crash. It kind of seemed like we did that today.
Well, it does. It's not helped by the fact that Stokes can't bowl. Now, he hasn't been amazing in this series. He looked, even when he's been fit, he's looked unfit. He cannot bowl because of the side strain, can barely throw the ball. And Ollie Robinson also not bowling. They've said it's sort of lower back stiffness.
Described it as soreness,
or soreness.
A strain.
But
so
he was like,
he
he was throwing the ball in underarm to like the he's fielding deep square leg. Why he was on
geriatric cricket, wasn't it? It's like playing fifth team.
Yeah, it was. So they had Ollie Robinson doing that, Stokes doing like completely immobile as well, and you were sort of wondering why have they done
why
this
they didn't
again?
pick Joss Butler and Johnny Bairstow at the same time.
Couple that with Mark Wood having one of those days. He couldn't hit a cow's arse.
Every ball just flew off the back of the boundary. It was ridiculous. But no, I was following it on the BBC text as well, and Agnew was just like, Wood is having a terrible day. Literally, the next thing was him getting a wicket, which I thought was great. So,
well, I was actually on that sort of Cameron Green wicket. I was sort of commentating for the sort of second half of the middle session where things were really getting away from England, and What struck me was how little England tried. They were just carried on bowling, not very threatening. Same deliveries, same bowlers. I mean, Joe Root came on and actually bowled 10 overs in that session just to get through them quickly, because I think we were quite far behind the over rate, so there was that to consider as well.
Don't want to lose out on some more World Test Championship points.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be negative, too far negative. You might not get back to zero. But I mean, Joe Root, the only plan I could see was Joe Root bowling it, sort of firing it into Cameron Green's legs to stop him from doing too much. And aside from that, we let it drift. And I think actually, even though Mark Wood was bowling very well, but it took far too long to try some sort of short bowling plan, because I mean that was like the first thing England had been going to in the first 3 games, and now
it hadn't worked that well. Let's be honest.
It hadn't worked. It hadn't worked. But this was probably the actual time to try it when nothing else had worked, and you didn't really have any other options at your disposal with Ollie Robinson injured and not having picked Jack Leach. It was basically all they had, and they didn't actually try it until it was far too late.
After the match, John Lewis, England's bowling coach, came out, fired a broadside at Robinson, said he needed to be fitter to be consistently good, or something along those lines, at test level. Do you reckon that those words from John Lewis will help heal Robinson's back, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, when he's looking at that next slice of cake, he's going to be like, oh no, the guy who's supposed to be guiding me through this is going to tell me that, Ollie Robinson, if he eats less cake, he'll be better at cricket, or better at cricket. So, so it's an interesting thing. Like, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're going for the tough love approach now. They tried mollycoddling them, and now it's going to be like, you know what? We're going to put a thing out of the Jose Mourinho playbook. Let's put them across the coals in front of the media.
Ollie, Luke Shaw, Robinson. Maybe
exactly.
that's the plan. Just call him fat for the next 2 years. Then when Silverwood moves on, he turns out to be a fantastic left back in the five-a-side warm-ups they have before the match. Yeah, England. It was rubbish. Does anyone, Max? I don't know what you think about this. Did you think it was weird that they didn't pick Anderson?
Apparently he's got a niggle.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
I'd have played him anyway. He's not going to play Test cricket for ages now. They don't like.
Yeah, they are off until the 8th of March, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, I think you had to pick Broad again, and I think it was probably those with Anderson a little bit, possibly feeling something. The risk of picking Broad and Anderson, and if they were going to go with Wokes as well, you're getting very one-dimensional again. So I'm not that surprised.
No, I don't want to be accused of being Captain Hindsight here, but I did wonder whether they'd have been better off lining up with Wokes at 7 instead of picking Pope. I don't really see what Pope's going to do.
Well, yeah, without Ben Stokes.
that Wokes can't. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Could have played
I'm surprised they didn't play Overton, actually. Yeah, I forgot he was even there, but now you mentioned that he is there, I'm surprised he is.
Well, he was out there fielding for Robinson, wasn't he? So.
But what's the point? The series is done. Like, we've managed to not get a whitewash. This is just, you might have taken him all that way over Christmas. You might
success.
Give him a bloody game, right?
We've proved that Chris Wokes doesn't really work in Australia.
Yeah, but this is a different bit of Australia. We're ploughing unknown furrows, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's new ground that we're tilling with our
turns out doesn't make much
cricketing hose. That's that for what happened, I think. Cameron Green, Max, you thought it was funny when he was out, did you?
Really well.
I thought it was. He basically traded in as easy a chance for a century as he was looking like getting. Obviously, the rain coming makes that slightly different because he would have had to start again tomorrow. But he was batting beautifully. He was hitting some gorgeous shots. Didn't look in any form of trouble at all until that sort of the short ball came in. Parkwood gave him a bit of a going over, and he chased one that he really didn't need to, and he'll be really disappointed by that, I think, the way he got out. But it's just giving England that little bit of a sniff that they maybe need. But again, he batted really well, and he showed why Australia put him in there as a batting all-rounder, I think, today.
He's grown in confidence, hasn't he, through this series? No, he has gone from strength to strength. I think early on he was a bit of a rabbit in the headlights, but now he's looking a little bit more assured, and he's playing his game. I think there's sometimes when you come into a side, especially in Test cricket, you kind of think, oh, there's a way to play Test cricket, and you kind of sometimes forget actually what got you there in the first place. And actually, he's kind of reverting back to being just like, you know what, this is my game. This is where my scoring areas are. I think it's going to be a huge asset for Australia if it continues in that vein.
So all of that means, according to the computers, fellas, that Australia have a 66% chance of winning. The draw is 20, so 1 in 5. England's still 15%. That's about what they started the day with. They've held on to their equity in this Test match. I don't know if England would be 15% to win one of these matches at the end of day one, period, for this tour. So this might be the best day one performance we've seen from England. I don't know. Where do you see this match going? Is the question I'm gonna ask you both. Oh, Ross.
Everything is that classic thing of everything comes down to how we start tomorrow. If we skittle India out, India. If we skittle them out, it'd be very impressive. If we skittle Australia out in the first, in like the first hour, and they add maybe 20 more runs, then I think England are going to be like, do you know what, we can do something here. We can make a proper game of it. If, like every other instance, the tail wags and they get an extra 100, and England look even more ragged, I think we're in big trouble. And I think there could well be a bit where we get bowled out for probably less than 100. Wow. And then we've got to bowl again, and then we'll be in the dirt for a long, long time. We'll come back looking like the walking wounded after a World War II battle, and we'll have Ollie Pope coming into bowl.
What does he bowl, Ollie Pope?
He's never bowled in professional cricket.
Oh, well, we've got an opportunity then, haven't we?
Yeah.
They say Root's a bit conservative with his captaincy. Break the shackles.
Tim Milton-Davis in the live chat was kind of saying, well, actually, it would have been perfect to see a bit of Dan Lawrence actually there as well. He's been a complete passenger on this journey. Yeah,
people have been asking this, like, why has Dan Lawrence not got a go for England, considering the batting disaster?
He bowls reasonably useful off spin, probably a level down slightly from Joe Root, but a couple of part timers. David Milan, we could.
David Milan's the third best bowler on this tour. Third best bowling average for an England player, David Milan. You can't knock him.
The only thing that could help us is the weather, as Heather has identified in the chat. Obviously, rain stopped play today.
Supposed to be iffy tomorrow.
Yeah, supposed to be iffy. So again, come on the rain. Just bring on another draw.
I'll tell you what, it came to the rescue in the last test. Bailed us out that one in India at home, at home against India. It was at Trent Bridge, where it looked like it was going to be a bit dicey. Could have, helped us out at Lords, but didn't, which was a bit annoying. But it has played a good role in this Ashes series so far.
I think this game's going to move quickly, though. I think we're going to need at least a full day of rain in total.
Yeah, the only thing around it is that with the pink ball, Stark is obviously fantastic. He's got the most wickets in pink ball cricket, but it's also how much overs are in the legs. Like they've used Scott Boland really well. Him on this surface, him with his kind of bowling, his good length deliveries. It's a big test for this England batting lineup, but I just can't see how England get anything from this. I think we're going to get steamrolled.
Well,
there
we have it. There we have it. Max, remind people where they can find us on the internet, and then we will talk a little bit about India v South Africa, which was an altogether much more exciting cricket match than what we saw in Hobart.
Okie dokie, yeah. Instagram and Twitter at the Cricket Pod. Head over there, follow us, and keep up to date with all of Ross and Jack and me, but usually Ross and Jack's excellent tweeting and attempts at viral memes.
There was a good one today. There's a good one, but nobody.
Yeah,
fucking everyone was watching India lose, and nobody picked it up.
It's not got the credit it deserves. I did like that one.
I'm going to retweet it.
And also like and subscribe on YouTube. On here, please do that. And also the Cricket Pod if you want to support us, as mentioned earlier.
Yes, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod, the big one. That's the big daddy with extra TCP. Content. Goodness. TCP, not PCP. That's the bad CP. So India v South Africa. Ross, we got up to 120. Dished out a little bit of a hammering. Was it a hammering? A win. They've dished out a win to India. Keegan Peterson, he managed 82 in the end. Didn't get his century. It would have been a pretty good century. We could have had a trio of Travis Head, Keegan Peterson centuries, and they would all have been of the very highest quality. In the end, he goes for 82, playing on off Shardul, Thakur, the Lord, and Rassi van der Dussen and Temba Bavuma take it home. Ross, I thought India might do what they did to England, blow South.
To get kind of that 50 runs underneath the belt and make things easier and take the sting out of the game. And that's exactly what they did, right? They had that partnership. I thought it was perfect for them. They played it absolutely perfectly. And Keegan Peterson has had a fantastic series. He's player of the series. And sometimes you do just have a bowler's number, and he just didn't setting for him. He didn't get to a century, but he did his job in a big way. And Rassi van der Dussen did his job as well in a big way. And then we weren't surprised when Temba Bavuma, who's in a good patch of form, does that as well. I just think that they did really well. I don't think you can criticise the Indian bowlers too much either, actually. I thought they did reasonably well. And towards the end, the kind of wheels came off a little bit. But I thought there was a couple of chances. Pujara obviously dropped that one. It was unfortunate for India that their opportunity was with the bat. It wasn't with the ball today. They should have put the game out of reach, and unfortunately, they shit the bed on that.
Yeah, I think that probably is the tale. I think Virat Kohli blamed the bowlers, Mourinho style. Said that they failed.
It's the batsman's fault. He literally, him as
win.
part of the batting unit, Pirane was part of the batting unit. They failed. The openers failed. They all failed together. They're suffering from Englanditis.
Max, they say that the fish rots from the head. The head of this India fish is Virat Kohli. How much of the blame should we lay at his door?
Well, still no century for Virat Kohli, so that's going to be a concern for him. Even though 29 off 143 deliveries in that second inning, quite
Blockathon.
Well, quite a restrained innings from his perspective. I think it's as much his fault as it is for him as part of the batting unit. I think that is it. And I think you have to give so much credit to South Africa in both of their fourth innings chases in the last two games, because they've both been in almost exactly the same situation of their game, where both sides have, in three innings, have been three scores of 200-ish, and then they've gone and made a mockery of that, whether that's the pitch flattening out slightly or other sort of extraneous conditions contributing. But you just have to say, like, they battled in those situations so well and batted really well. And I think that's probably where South Africa were expected to be weakest, right? I mean, we know how good their bowling attack is with Bader in particular, and the fact that their batting stood up to one of the best bowling attacks in the world in conditions that would be pretty helpful for people like Bumrah and Shami and the rest. I think they did really well. So I think just so much credit to South Africa for surprising everyone with how well they were. But I mean, on Kohli's leadership, the only thing I would say is that he treads that line, doesn't he, of aggression. And when India are on top, it's great. It gives them like the Australian of the 90s bad guy ethic that so many teams might strive for when they're on top. But when things go against India, that's when it sort of the other side of it comes in. Sort of kind of think about the reactionary.
Apparently he poked Rassi. We didn't discuss this, Ross. Apparently he poked Rassi van der Dussen yesterday. We missed the poke. The batting though for India, it was pretty bad through the series. There's not really any of them that stood out. I didn't think. Got the averages up here. Keegan Peterson 276 runs at 46. Pretty good series. We were saying we weren't expecting South Africa to do much with the bat. No one would have called Keegan Peterson being top run scorer in this series 3 weeks ago, would they? So it's a good find for South Africa there as a batter. Pair that with Marco Jansen, and suddenly their team is looking decent. Dean Elgar 235 at 47. Bavuma 221 at 73. He had a really good series. For India, KL Rahul, 226 runs at 37, which isn't too bad as an opener. I think a lot of those runs came in one innings, didn't they? He's got a high score of 123, but can't take that away. It was part of a match-winning effort. Richard Pants, he scored 186 at 37, 100 of those coming in a great effort yesterday to keep the game alive. And Kohli obviously only played 2 tests, averaged 40. Rahane, Agarwal, Jara, 22, 22, 20 are their batting averages. And that makes up the rest of the top 6. So there's some pretty big weaknesses there that South Africa were basically able to exploit over and over and over again. I do.
Shreyas Iyer must be absolutely livid.
Yeah, probably. I would be upset if I were him. I do.
Or he's sitting there, or his stock has risen. That classic case where he's out the side.
Never a better player than when you're out the side.
Bahari came in for one match, scored 60 runs, was out once, and then was dropped. He's probably not super thrilled as well.
After being sent to South Africa to work on it, be like, you're an overseas specialist, plays one game.
So there's that. There's I don't know. I think India are in danger now, I think, of not qualifying for the World Test Championship final, which is preposterous for a team that good. They've got a big match in England, haven't they? Coming up in July. They'll pulverise a few teams at home to get the things going in the right direction. But Pakistan look good. They've got points on the board. Australia are pretty much there, aren't they? Courtesy of England. New Zealand's lost to Bangladesh. New Zealand's lost to Bangladesh puts them in a bit of a dicey situation, but they might put things together. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe South Africa will fancy a bit of a run at it now. If they win, if they go to the England points dispenser in the summer and pick up a few themselves, they'll be quite a way above India at sort of the halfway stage through, which would be a pretty catastrophic failure. So it will be what India tests in the next year, 18 months. I think will be pretty exciting because they'll want to make the final. It's Virat Kohli's only chance of ICC silverware now that been ruthlessly stripped of the white ball captaincy. So it's going to be good. Away tests with India, they're just consistently box office, and I'm looking forward to wherever they have to go next. Do they go to New Zealand soon? They're not going to Pakistan. That's a shame. That would be good, wouldn't it?
That would be good. Yeah. I mean, are we going to end this podcast by doing a synchronized clap like the Indian team did with the guys off the pitch?
No, I didn't see this. Do you want to talk about that quickly? We've got a few questions, and I'll just get them up.
There's just a bit where Kohli shouts like, "Keep clapping, boys!" and then you got all the people in the dugout literally just doing this little clap, and it's just like an amateur dramatics class of just following orders. It's just a little bit strange. But never mind.
So a couple of questions. Lonely Surfer Boy, Max, you can answer this as the psychologist on the pod. What is wrong with Labuschagne's brain?
He's a funny bloke, isn't he? And funny peculiar rather than funny ha-ha. Whatever is wrong with his brain obviously makes the bit of his brain that's good at cricket work very well. So, one of those, maybe he's a savant.
Yep. And Tim Wilton D, who's probably in the chat as well. Ross, you can answer this one. What do you think of the ECB's Tom Harrison? He did an interview, I think, with Aggers, Overlord Aggers, Agstradamus, today, talking about things, saying that they needed to recalibrate the red ball calendar so that there was red ball cricket in the summer. And if only someone had the power to do that, was generally the point he was making. Do you like him? What do you think?
Bit thick, really. Just really, if you look at the troubles that England had over the last few years, where he's been kind of in that position, he's overseen like a ridiculous amount of just stupidity that's there. And I think sometimes when people come out into the media, like this guy would have been media trained like within an inch of his life, and he just comes across so poorly. And just doesn't speak for the game in England at all, I don't think. And I think it's, I'm not sure how his position is that tenable, but that's it's not my decision to make. But I tell you right now, I'm coming for that role.
Coming for that.
20 years time, that'll be me.
Dressed for the role you want, not the role you've got. He's dressed like the president of the ECB or whatever his name is, CEO of the ECB.
He'll be supreme leader when Ross is in charge.
And I'll have 5 Rolexes, all completely fine.
On your right arm. You know how to wear a watch. Right,
won't be any room left on his left arm.
Lads, let's wrap this up. We've got nothing else to talk about. We will be back tomorrow with more cricket. Saturday special. I'm not sure who the guest will be. We'll try to get a guest for that. On Sunday, Shane is coming on to probably laugh at us. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe we'll be back on Monday as well. Goodbye, everyone.
See you later.